Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning, this evening. We are going to kick off with some this afternoon, wherever you're located. We're going to kick off with some breath work and prayer. I just want to let you know that this is a trauma-informed space. So if at any time you feel uncomfortable or unsafe, please, it's okay if you remove yourself during prayer or breath work. You can keep your eyes open. Even if I suggest for them to close, it's whatever feels safest to you. So at this moment, if it does feel safe for you to close your eyes, you can gently close your eyes. If not, you can keep them open. I'm going to invite you to take a really deep breath in through your nose and sigh it out of your mouth. Go ahead and do that 2 more times. And one more big breath. You'll begin to inhale for a count of 4 in through your nose and slowly exhale for 5 out of your mouth. Just noticing the felt sense of breath in your body. Or maybe noticing the seat beneath you. Feeling the support system underneath you and around you. If your feet are flat on the ground, noticing where your feet are touching the ground, the points where they feel pressure under your seat. And now hand it over to KEYSHA for prayer.
Heavenly Father, Great Spirit, shining light, we come before you now boldly, as you say that we can, thanking you for this opportunity and chance to speak to this audience. It is our hope, as we pray it is yours, that each soul and hearer under the sound of my voice will get what they need in this time dedicated to mental health and faith. I pray for every listener that their hearts will be open to understanding, clarity, and healing. I pray that they get what they need. Under the sound of my voice, we ask for your presence, love, and compassion. We pray for everyone struggling with mental health issues, disorders, problems. It is our desire, as we hope it is yours, as we open our hearts to share each experience, that it is met with understanding and no judgment. We are grateful for today, and we are thankful for the fruit that will come from this harvest. In that matchless name that we all know of, Yeshua. Amen.
Amen, Ashe. Thank you. We're so excited for all of you to be here and join us this morning, this afternoon, for this chat. Before we do the introductions, I just wanted to take a moment to dedicate this space and this time to my little brother, Alejandro Gonzalez Jr., who lost his life a couple weeks ago to the struggle of mental health. And so it's an honor to share this space with, this is my aunt, for those of you who don't know, mental health therapist and licensed elder KEYSHA CONARD. And it's such an honor to share this space with her and to share this space with all of you and to lift up my brother's name in this light.
All right. And it's an honor as well to be with you, little lady, as you have blossomed and are blossoming and grooming into who you are meant to be. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Let's take a moment to introduce ourselves, if you want to go first.
I am, as you stated, KEYSHA. I am a mental health therapist. I've worked with clients who have general mental health disorders. I currently work with clients who have eating disorders. So I've also worked with clients who have anxiety, depression, anything like that. I'm currently also a licensed elder. So the two go hand in hand. So I volunteer at the hospital here in Dallas, Texas at UT Southwestern. And there is where am given the opportunity I work with breast cancer patients. And so there I'm given the opportunity to pray with them. So it goes hand in hand being a mental health therapist and an elder. So they allow me to pray with the clients as well. So that is a little bit of what I do. It is my goal, though, once licensing has been completely not restored, but completely granted, I want to kind of work with opening a center for boys between the ages of 14 and 17. Because during that stage, and people don't know that they suffer with depression, it starts around about that age, around about 13, 14. And so they're ignored and they're being blamed for the outburst and why do they sleep all day and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes the sleeping can definitely be connected to their teenagers and their body is doing whatever it's doing. But I think now in the later parts of of aging, or just the latter part of my career, I think I want to open a center for boys suffering with depression, ages 14 to 17. So that is my latest venture. And I have a book that's out, that's doing phenomenal. Just so happen to have it right here. So this is my book. You can get it on Amazon, Kindle. Just recently gotten into the Dallas libraries, two of Dallas's libraries here. And then just yesterday or 2 days ago, I went into it's in the Emerge Counseling Ministries agency. It's in a counseling ministry place in Akron, Ohio. I was a client there. I was one of their patients. And so they have helped me. I've been in therapy. I stay in therapy. I am in therapy now. It is very important as a therapist, you have a therapist. So definitely my book just got picked up by Emerge Counseling Ministries in Akron, Ohio. So I actually donated the book to them because they have helped me a great deal. They have helped me in my walk to healing and mental health. So that's a little bit about me.
And I'm Brittany HOOGENBOM. I'm a psycho-spiritual trauma-focused mental and spiritual health coach. I work primarily with birthing people, women. I don't diagnose or treat in that way. My support system is to help women on their journey of healing their mental health, in addition to maybe medical professionals, as well as reconnecting with their faith and their spirituality in whatever way that looks like for them, so that it can contribute to the growth and benefit of their mental health. I work one-on-one with people primarily. My practice is always growing. For the clients who have been with me for some time in my community, I am always just listening to what Spirit God has for me next as far as my practice. And this most recent experience with my brother has just driven this love and drive to support people with their spiritual and mental health even more. So I'm really honored to be a conduit of Spirit's work here in both science and in the spiritual realm.
All right, let's get into it.
Beautiful.
So do you want to, we want to welcome everybody here. First, let's just acknowledge our audience. Welcome. We are so glad that you are here. We are grateful that you have taken the opportunity and the time to come out to listen to us, chime in. We are definitely open to, are we taking questions?
Yes, at the end. We'll take questions at the end. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're taking questions. Just really grateful that you're here. And I'm hoping that there's something that's said that will help you to start the conversation with yourself on where you are with mental health. We are hoping that there's something that's new that you maybe didn't know about mental health. If you know something that'll help further the discussion, or just kind of chime in. But we're very grateful that you're here. We don't take for granted that you are here because, hey, you got a life. Life is happening to you as well. And so we're just thankful that you decided to join us for whatever amount of time you're here.
Yes, this is beautiful. This is going to be a really beautiful experience with all of you. We're going to take some time to just share a little bit about our stories. If you want to go first.
You can go first
Okay.
because I'm
So
going to take a minute.
my story is pretty extensive. I struggled with mental health since I was a teenager, with a lot of substance abuse, a lot of sexual abuse in my teenage years, which drove me first away from spirit. I ended up not believing in any higher power because I was incredibly upset of the experiences that I had been going through in my teenage years and could not make sense of it. So fast forward to college, I was about 18 years old. I just got my GED. I didn't graduate high school. I got my GED and I started college. And my first experience with reconnecting with spirit was in a yoga class. And I actually just messaged my professor not too long ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, just to thank her for the journey that the space and the safety that she provided for me to, first of all, connect to the safety within my body through the practice of yoga with breath work and movement. And second, to open the doors to that spirit, God, the universe shows up in many forms. And however that looks for you is what will benefit you on your journey. Her name was Holly Clemens, and I recently messaged her, and she's actually retiring from the program that she founded at
wow.
Tri-C. Yeah, after
Okay.
35 years. And I asked her, "Do you remember me?" And she was like, "Of course I remember you." And I told her, you know, at that time when I was in your class, I was in the midst of my heaviest addiction.
Mm.
And just her presence, I'll never forget just the way her room felt. She had this candle that would melt into a massage oil, and she would come around and do everybody's neck in the end of the class while you're laying in corpse pose or shavasana. And I'll just never forget how that room felt. I would fall asleep in her class all of the time because of the safety that she created, and just
Mm-hmm.
the presence of spirit in her room. She's a very heart-led woman in her work, really big on anatomy. She teaches anatomy trainings across the United States. And so that began my journey. And from there, I went on a journey of reconnecting with what spirit meant to me in my life, as well as my spiritual practices. I'm also a folk healer. I'm a root worker. So if you are familiar with hoodoo practices, I'm a hoodoo practitioner. I use a lot of folk healing in my practice to assist my clients in their health and well-being. And there's a lot of negative connotation towards folk healing in the world of spirituality because there's a major misunderstanding of how it's used and what the practices stem from, where they come from. So that was another journey of me reconnecting with spirit, is first of all going through the yogic philosophy and utilizing those practices for my mental health. Yoga was one of the number one practices that really helped me create safety in my body. And now with my background in science, I'm able to understand that it is somatically helping us literally create safety and reconnect to ourselves. So that was a catalyst to my practice. Throughout my 20s, I am also neurodivergent, ADHD diagnosed, and mild bipolar. So through that diagnosis, I went on a journey of attempting to manage my disorder without pharmaceutical psychotropic medication, and have been successful at doing so. That was a big catalyst of the reason why I do this work. Something happened when I'm a licensed physical therapist assistant as well. And something happened in my practice in physical therapy where I noticed that people were telling me things that they didn't tell other therapists when we were in private sessions, maybe hands-on massage or things that they're just deeply rooted, a lot about their trauma. And I would ask other therapists, you know, did this person ever tell you this? And they would say, no, they've been coming here for 8+ years. So I took it upon myself to realize some of the gifts that God had given me. And it's one of the reasons why I also went further in certification through yoga, so that I could create my own practice with a combination of what my knowledge was in physical therapy, the connection that I had with spirit, and my background with yoga to create safety and begin helping people uncover what was really the surface of their pain. For example, I would have clients who would come in with shoulder pain, 8 out of 10, which is pretty excruciating, and would tell me things about their childhood trauma that they maybe have not told anybody else, and would walk out of there pain free. And before that, I was mostly spirit led. So even though I was in school for physical therapy, and I've been basically in school for my whole life, all of my work was spirit led. Everything that I did was through God. I didn't know the science of any of the things that I practiced. I just listened to spirit with everything that I do. And God kept telling me, people need this type of support in this way. So your relationship with me needs to be stronger so that you can also support yourself through this and others through this work. Now I'm also continuing my education further, as I am always doing, to not only support myself in my practice and in my mental health, but to create the safest space for my clients to heal, to elevate in spirit and whatever that means for them. Because one thing about faith is I'm a very intellectual person, which is one of the reasons why I've got by so far. Because when you connect to spirit in whatever way that looks like, I tell my clients, it could be through a tree. If you worship a tree, I don't care. If that's your faith, that's beautiful. One of my mentors, her company is named the Almighty Pineapple. Because if you want to pray to a pineapple, I don't care what it is. As long as it supports you in bettering yourself and your health and your well-being, it gives you the strength to get by every single day. That's the point. This recent situation with my brother, 2 weeks ago, my little brother committed suicide. And I surprised myself with how well that I have handled the situation. And not because I'm not sad of my loss, but because my connection with spirit, with God, with the universe is so strong. It's stronger than it has ever been, that I have no doubt that my brother is at peace, and that my connection with the other realm gives me that sense of safety and security, and knowing now today at 35 that all of my experiences were not to diminish my heart, but to teach me, make me stronger, open my eyes to more, to help me learn humility and compassion and love and understanding of others. And so I have been able to support my family and my mother, while also myself, in this process of my brother transitioning to the ancestor realm, to the heaven realm, because of my understanding and my strength and this connection that I have with spirit. And when I told God that I do not want to do this alone, because we were not meant to, we are human. Our human minds are the ones that tell us that we are so prideful that we could do it alone. And going through things that I went through, childhood abandonment, my father was absent, and my mother had her own emotional dysregulation that I carried a lot of. And so childhood trauma was one of the reasons why I had a trouble trusting in source, in God. I didn't believe that I should listen to anybody. Who knows better than me? Because nobody was able to guide me the way that I needed to be guided. When I took it upon myself to really heal internally, not just my mind, because one thing about our healing is our minds can talk us out of everything, but our bodies really store our experiences.
Yes, ma'am. That's where trauma lives.
Yes. And the somatic healing, the healing inside the body is a crucial piece to us connecting with the higher power, with God, so that we can truly surrender and hand over the wheel and say, I don't need to be a stubborn. I'm an Aries. If you're into astrology, I'm an Aries. I'm a stubborn, hard-headed ram. I like to do everything on my own. And then I don't. Now I don't. I will hand it over to Mother, Goddess, Father, God, in all forms, in all traditions, every day. There is nothing that I want to do on my own. I'm an ancestral practitioner. I'm a priest of Oya and the Lukumi faith. And so I will hand it over to my Orisha, to my ancestors every single day, no matter what it is. But that's a practice that was learned once I was really healing my trauma internally. Like I said, it creates a disconnect for us sometimes. So that's just a little bit about my story and why I'm so passionate about this work, why I continue to be obedient to Mother Goddess, Father God in all ways, and asked to always be obedient in every way so that I can continue to do this work in the best of my ability.
I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome because it's not for you to even talk about your faith and what your faith means to you, because our faith is personal to us. Very, 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 very personal. So, and just kind of referencing some of the word and verbiage that I hear you using, what are the Spirit and Heavenly Father, and just to our audience listening, however you connect, if your person is Jesus, if your person is what to say, if your person is Heavenly Father, if your person is Spirit, if your person is, so I just want to kind of, throw that out there because this is an open forum. We are not a Christian. We are not a, Buddhist. We're not a religious sect. So let me just throw that out there because we don't want to offend anyone. Brittany and I have come together not to do a war on who believes what. We have come together to say, hey, you can have mental health and, your faith, whatever your faith is. I am a Christian. I am a Christ follower. So I follow the rule of the Bible. I follow the instructions of the Bible. So just want to kind of put that out there so that, a lot of people, I guess now we have that click where you take a portion of a person's saying and say, oh, she's into this. And, so I just want to be very careful and just kind of let you all know, we are not here to bash you, to judge you. This is an open, safe space for you. Okay. So I don't want you to get bent out of shape if you hear someone saying something that you don't agree with. We're not here to change or challenge your faith. That is not what we're here to do. We're here to say, I can have Jesus and therapy. I can definitely have Jesus and therapy because I do. And Brittany has her faith in whatever therapy she has. So that's what we're trying to push out. That's what we're trying to make an understanding. So I definitely want to put that out there. And then to our audience that's listening, when you get your opportunity, write down your questions because I don't want you to forget what you want to say to us or forget what you want to make us know, who you are and what you've been through. So write down your questions if we get to a little bit too long. So who am I? Where I started? I'm not gonna take up majority of the time because I'm 51, and so I can give you 51 years of experience. So we'll be here till tomorrow. So I don't want to do that. I just want to kind of just give what kind of started my journey of mental health. I would have to honestly say, just a little bit about 8 years old. I was molested by 2 family members. The molestation for me was from the ages of 8 to 12. One family member it was like maybe twice. Another family member, it was ongoing. And so I do talk a lot about my experience in my book. So I don't want to go into a lot of detail because then you won't get the book. So
it's a great book. I read it in 24 hours. Literally.
Thank you. It is basically just kind of giving my life story. And now that healing is occurring, I feel like there needs to be a part 2. Because in the book, I am detailing my church hurt, because I have been in church. My mom, I have to credit her. I have to credit my mother. She was in the church and she kept us in the church. I think my earliest remembrance of her in church was one day we were going to clean the church. And me and my little sister were in the car. And my sister was like, my mom was going to, I don't know how early it was, but when you clean the church, you got to go before everybody, right? And then when you stay after the church, you got to stay after everybody, right? So my little sister, when we got there to clean the church,
Wait a minute.
Was like, my little sister was like, why do we always have to be here and nobody is here? And so my mom said, we're here. So that's my first remembrance. And then when my mom would go and clean the altar, she would always stop and pray. She would always stop and pray before she went to the altar. So that was my introduction to, okay, why does she do that? That was my introduction to God in Christ. So just to kind of give you a little bit there, and her seriousness with Christ. My mom loves God, still loves him right to this day with all of the trauma that she's been through. Hi, Miss Mom. With the trauma that she's been through, God is helping her. She's been through a great deal. She needs to write a book. So anyway, I said all that to say, because of that and her relationship with Christ, her God became my God until I was old enough to know God for myself. And so when I learned God for myself, he became my Jesus. So that's who I worship. And after that, got saved at the age of 18 years old. Was going in. I tried several different careers. I wanted to be a registered nurse. I wanted to be a psychiatric registered nurse. So a registered nurse with a specialty of psychology, psychiatric. And so then social work. And when I entered into the social work, I was a case manager. And so I always found myself counseling the clients. And so I would get in trouble, and actually in a supervision that we would have. I would, because I'm very forthright. I'm the type of person, I tell you what I mean, how I feel, and you get what you get when you get it. So, just explaining to my supervisors, here's what I'm talking to them about. So they would say, hey, kind of steer clear from therapy. You're there to help them with resources. So I had that was kind of the theme for me. Why am I talking always? And I'm a great listener. As therapists, we're trained listeners. And so I tried nursing, went into the nursing field. I was a medical assistant first, then got into nursing, did the nursing classes at Ursuline College in Cleveland, Ohio, and I got a D in one of my classes. And then so I was almost ready to graduate. I got a D, and then the lady, counselor, our academic counselor, was like, "Well, take the class over or change your major." And I was like, "I'm changing my major," because I was already burnt out. And I asked God, I said, "What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?" So I believe first he said social work, went into the social work. I did not like social work because for me, social work is like an octopus. You got so many arms, you got to give them the resources. And from the type of social work I was doing, I'm taking them to appointments. They're riding in my car. I'm doing counseling with them. I'm their advocate for their landlord. I'm their advocate if their lights get turned off. So it's a lot. It just pulled a lot. And so my thought process was, I really think I enjoy the one-on-one. I enjoy the one-on-one. So I I kind of said, let me try therapy. And I believe that there are many individuals that go into therapy because those that are anointed to do therapy make it look easy, so everybody feels they can do it. So you got to be very careful when you're meeting with a therapist that's just really good at what they do. Many of us are called to that. Many of us are called to be a therapist. And so if I'm talking to you and it's like, I just love that KEYSHA, she just brings it out of me, she just knows how to make me talk. It may be because I do feel I'm called to be a therapist, but be very careful on trying to do that, and it's not a call for you. It's almost like a hireling and one who's called to do it. A hireling will do it because they feel like, I can make a lot of money, I can become a celebrity therapist, but they're not healed themselves. So they go into healing and they go into counseling with others, and they are harming, because in our oath and our ethics as a therapist, we take an oath to do no harm. So that's how I got into the whole mental health part, and learning a lot about ourselves. In my training, I learned a lot about myself. You are your first client. I am in love with being a mental health therapist. I mean, we do get burned out. There is burnout. So you have to be very careful. You have to know what those signs look like. At first, I did not think that I could have my faith in mental health. I did not think that, because growing up, from my mom's era on, I don't believe they believed a lot in mental health, and then the African American, and I've learned now, furthering my studies, Korean, certain other cultures, therapy isn't something that you do. It's shunned. It's not something that, it's like, we don't do that in our culture. We don't do that in our faith. So you either have Jesus and Jesus will fix it, or you either have whatever he is to you, Confucius, Buddha, whoever he is to you. We have him and that's it. We don't go to a therapist. So at first, that was my thought process. Jesus is going to fix it. Jesus is just going to fix it. So I had to learn that we are triune beings. We are spirit, we are soul, and we are body. So while your physical body is all jacked up, and and my soul is getting fed whatever it needs to be fed, that's cool. But I'm still struggling with anxiety. I still have depression. There are things still going on in my flesh, but why aren't I fixing it? If you had a broken leg, you go to the doctor, right? You wouldn't let it just like turn into an infection. So I think that is what I started to learn. Like, yeah, I'm not compromising the two. I'm not choosing one over the other. If you choose to have faith, that's okay. If you choose not to, that's okay. So it's what kind of works for you, and so that's my journey where I'm at now. I am a therapist. I have been in the field for 5 years. Currently working on furthering my licensing in the state of Dallas, Texas. So I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Like I said, I do currently work with clients who have eating disorders. That's a population within itself that needs lots of compassion, lots of love, lots of attention. So, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to find my niche. I think my book was birthed out of, I need to tell this story of being molested, of being spiritual abuse. And I was in the church. I've been in the church. Like I said, my mom introduced me and my sister. And so I kind of just, after I got old enough, I kind of went and found Jesus for myself and who he is to me. And so I had to kind of go on my own journey. Which we all have to do. You all have to go on your own journey. So our reason for coming together is my hope for coming together, and even for writing the book, was to hope that you can start the conversation with yourself. Hoping you can start the conversation with yourself. And so, in starting to write it, I wasn't going to write it. It took me 20 years to write the book because, I wasn't healed. I wasn't healed at all. I had so many issues. I didn't think I had any issues. I thought everybody else was the problem, and I wasn't the problem. I thought that, the way you look at me is your issue. So I get to kick your butt because you looking at me wrong. I felt that because I was molested, I get to hurt everybody. I use that as an excuse. Like, no, I can punch you in the face because I was molested. I can talk to you any kind of way because I was molested. I can cuss you out because you don't give me what I want because I was molested. That was my excuse. That was completely, as I know now, 1000% not a reason to use that to hurt others. And so a lot of clarity had to come. So I ended up writing the book. It took me 20 years because it was a very hard topic. I did pray, ask God, why should I write it? And what I got back was my story. Although hearing this, being another statement that I use in molestation, and instead of using that word, I say a crime committed against you. So if you've had a crime committed against you, or for the other statement, if you were molested in any form, it happens. It happens. It happens in our families. It happens in religious sects. It happens by strangers. Unfortunately, it happens. And I am so sorry that is the case, but it's so many of us that are out there that are not sharing our story. And so I said just that. There's so many. Who cares about my story? And so I got back that there will be something that someone will be able to connect to in your story. And I say the same thing to you. If you have a story, don't feel like, well, nobody's not going to care. Someone's going to care. Someone's going to care about what happened to you. Why do you do what you do? Why do you look the way that you look? Why you survived it? And so that's why I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. It's a hard thing to do. It's very difficult to talk about. I am not ashamed that I am a survivor of abuse, childhood trauma, church hurt. My therapist and I are doing a lot of trauma work, and I did not know I had so much trauma. I did not know that I am the problem. And it's like, I blamed everybody else for what I did and what didn't happen. Why didn't I get that job? Or why wasn't I married? It's you all. It's you. And so she's doing a lot of work with me in that. And I'm finally ready because I've been in and out of counseling for years. I've been in and out of counseling for years. And so I find, and I do believe that finding the therapist that fits you is a journey. It is a journey. Do not get discouraged when you can't find a therapist that kind of vibes with you, or if you're with a therapist and has been with one for so long and you're starting to outgrow each other. You're starting to outgrow each other, because that does happen. So when you're on that journey to find a new therapist or to find a therapist, be very patient with yourself, be very patient with the process, because I was about to give up. I was about to give up until the therapist I have now, I had issues with Black females, because growing up, Black women, Black girls were very mean to me because I spoke like a Valley girl, and as brown as I am, I wasn't the what a brown girl should act like, should look like, should talk like. So I wasn't bullied, because I wish somebody would have. So I wasn't bullied. I was just like, Black women, Black girls are just so mean. They're just mean. And so and we're good at doing this. I can't really do that, but we're good at doing the head thing and the snapping. And my thought process, if I get into a therapy session with a Black woman and she does that, I'm going to launch at her. So I had trauma with Black women. So the therapist that I have now is a Black female. All of my other therapists have been white females, because that's where I was most comfortable. And same for you. If you're looking, what is most comfortable? Are you comfortable with a white male, a Hispanic male, a white female? What is most comfortable for you? So for me, it was a white female. Now I'm done. And then too, white females they're pretty good. Some of them, they're pretty good at being able to understand the Black experience. Not all of them, but some of them are very sincere and understanding, wanting to understand the Black experience. But I think it was time in my second length of life. I needed to get past this Black woman, fear. I don't want to come into a room with all Black women and I fear that they're going to shun me, or I fear that they're going to discredit me, because I am very intelligent. I speak well. I have a lot of things going on with me, but I'm never the type to brag. But I don't go in seeing color, quote unquote. I see color. I'm looking at all these beautiful colors of the rainbow, but I don't go in like I'm going to be that white girl's friend. I'm going to be that Black girl's friend. I don't go in doing that. I go with vibes, with energy. Mm-hmm. So that I had to end up saying, I need my Black sisters. I need them. I need them in my life. I need them in conversation. And so I had decided that in this second half of my life, I'm going to challenge. I'm going to go ahead and get healing from that. And then, my book does talk about being molested by, or being sexually assaulted by my bishop. When I was in church, I was sexually assaulted by him, very well-known bishop, who has passed on. So my book does kind of detail that. So I don't want to go too much into that, but that's my journey of how I am where I am. I am not done. I won't be done until my Father calls me home. And so my job and my duty right now is to help, hopefully say something to you, help you to start the conversation with yourself, start reaching out to individuals that can help you start the conversation. And this isn't just to say, yeah, you've been molested. No, I'm not saying that. Any mental health, depression, anxiety, borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, any type of disorder, mental health disorder, you start to search yourself, because COVID did a number on us. Mm-hmm. COVID did a number on us. A lot of death happened in COVID. And we are human beings. We are human beings, and we are created for companionship, for that relationship. Many of us will tough it out and be like, you know what, I'm better off alone. No, you're not actually. You don't have to get married or get a boyfriend or anything like that. If that's what you choose, that's what you choose. But we need this right here, what we're doing now. We need this communication. Yes. Yeah, we need the love and the empathy. And we're not going to always get along. You're going to say something that's going to piss me off. I'm going to let you know, and we're going to come back and be like, where are we going for coffee? Where are we going? Yeah. So it's like that. So that's a small snippet of what I've been through, and who has contributed, even the bad has contributed to me deciding it's time to get healing, because I had to decide it's time for healing. It is I am sick of going in relationships and blaming everybody, especially my male relationships. I'll go into them like he just ain't right. He blinking too many times. I don't like it. Or he breathing too loud.
I
I
still
don't
do
like
that to my husband sometimes. So
Okay.
yes, I mean, and he gets it, right? Because the healing is real.
Honey. Well, and so for me, that's how I knew it was time. It was time. It's like, why am I mad at him? Because he shut the door so hard.
Yes.
I mean, why am I mad at her? Because when I text her, she doesn't text back immediately. You text back when I say text. When I text you, you know what I mean? Those are
Yes.
things letting me know. Those are little things letting me know. You know, why if I'm in something like this, if I knock on your door and if I'm standing there 15 seconds, why? I got an attitude.
Yeah.
You give them just little things you got to start paying attention to. Like, maybe I need to have somebody to talk to. Maybe, with my faith, if that's what you choose. So for me, honey, I promise you, so many different. I tried to commit suicide 3 times. For real. 3 times. My first time, my mom doesn't know this, though. This is probably the first time my mom is hearing this, so I'm not embarrassed to say it. I took iron pills, her bottle of iron pills, and I thought it was medication that'll take you out. So I was 16. My first ever attempt to suicide. I was like 15, 16. Saw this bottle. Life was just awful. Saw this bottle in the bathroom. Went upstairs to my bedroom. Took every pill. I'm so dramatic. I'm very dramatic, just so you all know. Took one pill, one by one. And I'm just telling God, okay, I'm getting ready to meet you. I'm going to meet you in a minute. Take all the pills. And then I just lay back like crazy, but I laid back like this, like, oh, because I was like, this is how they're going to find me. They're going to find me like this. So woke up. When I opened my eyes, I looked up at the ceiling. I was like, am I dead? When I found out I was here, I was so pissed. So I went downstairs and I asked my mom. I was like, so what'll happen if you? I don't know if my mom remembers this. What'll happen if you take all iron pills? And she was like, you just get constipated. You just get constipated. So, I mean, it's real. It definitely is real. The struggle is there. So I had a best friend to talk to, but she was my peer. She couldn't advise me. She was my same age. So those are little snippets of my journey of why I am where I am right now. If I could change anything, I would not, because it would not make me who I am right now. I wouldn't be in this time, in this space with you all right now. So I am so, so grateful. Again, I mean,
I want to add something, TT, because well, I'll call you KEYSHA here today.
It's all right.
KEYSHA, it's so weird to call you KEYSHA, but also very similar experiences. For all of you who don't know us personally, I am the generation underneath her brother's daughter. So my journey is, I look at her and I'm like, wow, I'm following in her footsteps as far as the way we connect with God in this journey and our healing. And I also have 2 suicide attempts for real. And it was 300 Tylenol the first time. And they looked at me and said, you are 90 pounds. I don't know how you're alive. And I was like, I don't know why I'm still here. I thought I was going to go. Like, take me. And Spirit was like, it ain't your time. And then the second time, the same thing. They said, we had a man who was twice your size who just died from that. And you're still here twice. So after that, I knew I had to figure something out. I was like, and it was a year before I got pregnant with my son. And I was like, God wants me here for some reason. Spirit wants me here for some reason. So I'm going to figure this out. Right. And that was it really begun my journey, truly, truly begun of my own healing and realizing I can't really leave this place because something bigger than me needs me to take on this work was at 22 years old. 22, I got married. My second suicide attempt, I don't even know who found me. I can't remember even what happened. And I do remember that I'm ADHD. And so I was in college. And I remember having a blackout episode. I threatened the whole school. They threatened to get me arrested. And that was it. I blacked out. And after that, woke up puking out Tylenol everywhere. And I told Spirit, I don't know what's happening, but you want me here. So I'm gonna figure this out. I want to add something to this, to the work of all of this. So as in my research as a folk healer, as a spiritual healer, I work in realms that people can't see, that people don't understand, and it's very woo-woo, or some people think it's demonic, or whatever the words are, right? But there is the work that we do, we see, and I'm going to speak specifically for the Black and Brown communities, because it's something that I heavily see, that we are disconnected from our spiritual gifts. And in my research and a lot of the elders that I study under, we see how the shunning of our spiritual gifts has contributed to some of the mental health disorders that we struggle with today. So, for example, one thing that comes up a lot is, for example, ADHD, that I'm a 4th generation medium, and I use my mediumship in my work. And it's those connections to spirit, it's being touched by God in ways that our people were told that we should not be using our gifts in those ways, whether it's to help people, whether it's to speak to spirit, whether it's to heal with your hands, whatever that may be. We have been fear-mongled, and it's in my research, right? In my research, that we have been fear-mongled to not use our gifts. And just like generational trauma, in an energetic sense, it builds up. It builds up like cartilage, that now you can't move your elbow because you have so much cartilage buildup. And so in my practice, one of the things that I work really, really closely with people is to reconnect to those gifts, because it's opening up doors to releasing some of that spiritual and energetic buildup that over years people have said, don't use that, don't use that. Now, again, I speak specifically on the Black and Brown community because we are most recently colonized and told we are not allowed to practice the things that we were practicing before the slave trade, before the diaspora, before the spread. And so that is why we see a lot in the research and under my elders in the research that I study, that we see a lot that, especially in fast-paced civilized societies, who are discrediting our connection with spirit, with God, with the universe, and the gifts that we are given. And it doesn't have to be mediumship. It could be the gift of listening. It could be the gift of speaking.
Discernment.
It could be,
administration, prophet,
but we don't
teacher.
listen. Because this society is like capitalism, this, fast paced. And so we're not listening. And that's a huge piece in my work specifically, because it's what drove me to my own healing. Is I had this gift and I'm channeling to people. I'm giving people advice. Mind you, I don't got shit together in my life. And they're like, help me. And I'm like, wait a second. I ain't got shit figured out. I don't know what you want to help. I can channel for you. I can tell you what spirit says, what your ancestors say, right? But that's it. And so that was really a big piece of me beginning this journey, which is why I say, I always tell a lot of my clients or my community that I was stuck in the ethers first. God was like, you got these gifts, but you don't know how to use them for yourself in your human experience first. And so I'm going to take you through this journey of grounding here, of learning how to be human so that you can do this work, which is why my practice is psycho-spiritual. It is science-based, it's science-supported, and there's things that you can't see or there will never be any evidence to.
I think what you're talking, and thank you for sharing that. I think what you're describing on the Christian side is what our pastors teach us about the spiritual gifts. And, we're trying, that's where I learned, we're a triune being, where we are spirit, live in a body, and we have a soul. And so that's what we're taught on our ends. We do have gifts. And why aren't you using your gifts? What are your gifts? Find out what are your gifts. Prayer is big in the Christian community. Prayer is big. That's how we get that communication. That's how we find out what our gifts are. And then the gifts are being used in the church era. So same thing. But kind of want to hit on something you said, what kind of triggered a thought about, and I've got a little notes here about the National Institute of Health, the NIH. There are 8 billion, 19 million 876,189 people in the world. Okay.
Wow.
Out of all of that, and that's since January of 2024. And 22, it was just 8 billion people, just flat out. So out of all those people, out of all that, Blacks are 37 mental health illnesses. Blacks, 37%. The Latinos, 38%. Whites, 45.6%. But that's only mental health that is reported. Mm-hmm. And then two, you got to remember now, mental health and the whole title of counseling is not that old. Mm-hmm. And you get what I'm saying? So when you're back in slavery days with Harriet Tubman and who we call, I believe, the Black Moses, when you're back in those days, mental health was prevalent. How in the world can Harriet Tubman get hit in the head with something? I think it was a boulder or something hit in the head, and she not suffer from that. She was, I think, narcoleptic after that because she would fall asleep. So mental health was way, way, way back there. And it was only assumed white people, and when therapy came, only white people can do therapy. So I get the whole, well, we got Jesus. Okay, you all can have a therapist. We got Jesus. I get that. Just kind of learning, it's very important to know that history, to know where you're coming from so you can know where you're going. Very, mm-hmm. very important. So the numbers are huge. That's how I know as a therapist that depression is prevalent in children. Now studies are showing that they're finding out 3-year-olds can be depressed. What the frick? 3-year-olds can be depressed. So, and you got to know too, the generation you were born in is different from the generation I was born in now, different from the generation our children are born in now. So it changes. My mom was born in, and whoever else is on here is born in. It's different for us. So that shifting has to come. And so the titles can change, but most times the titles will change of what we do, but the behavior should not change. And so it's new that 3-year-olds are now depressed. It's like, wow, what does that look like now? What does that look like? And so, for the 14-year-olds to 17-year-old males to be depressed, that's major. I don't see many individuals, men don't normally go to therapists. Women will go. Women will go. Even if we weren't going for ourselves, we'll go to marriage counseling. We'll go to some type. We do it with our girlfriends. We have our little thing. Men do it too. I heard men are worse gossips than women. So maybe that's their therapy, but they don't go to therapists. They don't even go to the doctor to get their prostate checked. What the frick, So it's more difficult. So I think if there can be agencies that we can grab them at 14, 13, 12, whatever age, letting them know. First of all, I taught my little brother, Johnny, when he was like maybe, I don't know, 12, 13, he was starting to date girls and his little heart was broken. His heart was broken. I hope you don't mind me telling this, but I don't really care if he does or doesn't. But his little heart was broken because this girl and broke his little heart, and he struggled with crying. And I remember telling him, as long as you are hurting right here, it's okay to cry. It is okay. Now he do too much crying, but it's okay. It's okay because our men need to know. Mm-hmm. And for our audience, if you all got questions, please write them down in this part. We would love to hear it, but our men need to know they matter. Mental health is for you as well. It's not just for us. I think, because women are nurturers, we're instant nurturers, and we have a higher level of estrogen. We have testosterone and estrogen. We just have a higher level of estrogen. So that's why we're most emotional, and all that stuff. So it's definitely prevalent. So finding
that's something too with my dad. I mean, I see my dad, right? He ain't never cried a minute in his life until this recent experience that he had.
He used to cry. He cried when you were born.
Well, that's a different story,
But don't tell him that. Don't tell him that.
Yeah. Yes. He doesn't talk about it, right? And it was something that he didn't want to talk about. He didn't want to talk about his pain and his hurt. And now my father, for a little bit of background story, my father has a prison sentence of 32 years, and he was an alcoholic, an addict. And part of his journey of healing has been reconnecting with God's spirit, the universe, in his own way. And so it's been so beautiful I have a stronger relationship with my father now, and I don't even get to see him in the human often, than I did before. And it's because of his reconnection with understanding that he needed to heal, that he didn't
Okay.
need to, you know, he didn't need to carry this anger or this hate anymore, and that he also could give it over to our higher power to assist him in finding strength, in finding
Mm-hmm.
the healing. I mean, I can only imagine what it feels like to know that you have 32 years behind bars and you can't go nowhere. You can't do anything. And so that strength to see him and witness the words that he shares with me, he prays with me every morning. He sends me a prayer every morning. And so to hear and witness that, it's something that I actually never imagined my dad finding ever. I gave up on him. I gave up on his healing. I was like, you know what? I can't worry about you. I had so much animosity towards that man to only realize that he did the best he could because of his own trauma.
Yeah. Oh,
And that was a
yeah.
huge healing
Oh,
factor for
yeah.
me in my own healing to let go of that burden of being angry with him, because
Yeah.
once I was able to see, wait a second, he really went through it. He went through it,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so I can't, yes, there's a part of me that could have been mad, and I had to validate her, right? We
Yeah.
have to validate. That's another important piece about this journey, is we have to validate all pieces, parts, layers, versions of us on this journey. Yes, that piece of me was mad. She was mad, and I validated her. I let her have her space to be mad. And then my wise, my higher self, my inner God, my intuition spoke to me to provide her some peace and comfort in saying he really did the best he could with what he had,
Yeah. Yeah. And they
you
often
know?
do. I mean, because our parents' trauma, and I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna kind of counteract that. Our parents' trauma is not our responsibility.
Correct.
So because your dad went through whatever he went through, because my mom went through whatever she went through, my mom went through some stuff, her trauma is not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility to cater to. You know what I'm saying? It's her and his responsibility to fix that. And unfortunately, in them trying to find themselves, they have children. Okay. So they have these kids. Half of them don't even know what to do with us. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So they're doing the best they can. I went through that with my mom. My mom had whatever, life she had, and I resented the heck out of her because she put, in my opinion, only how I've experienced it, my experience with her is I went through a lot. I didn't have a lot. I am the kind of child where I needed affection and I needed love, and I didn't get that from her. So I grew up tough. I grew up a tomboy. I grew up, whoop you. I grew up hiding that, covering that. So it wasn't until I have a YouTube channel, and my YouTube channel is called Good Morning Survivor, a chance to rewrite the narrative.
You can
And
link it
so,
here in the chat so people can click
okay,
it.
okay. So in that YouTube channel, I talk to survivors like you. I give you an opportunity to come on, talk about what you've been through. My mom went on that channel, talked about, I did not know my mom was raped 2 times. Oh, I don't mean to tell her story, but I didn't, my mom had trauma. I didn't know that she'd been through what she'd been through. And so, her living with me when we were in Georgia, she lived with me for 3 years. That was the worst 3 years of my life, in my opinion, except for the last year, because I felt she came to us, she came to me and my siblings and, apologized that, look, I wasn't the best mother. I wasn't the best. My father has passed on. My father's been dead since I was 21. He was nothing. I mean, he was not a very good, nice man, in my opinion. I went through changes with him. So I had two parents that didn't know what it looked like to be a parent. You know what I mean? So, but my mom stayed. My mom did the absolute best that she did. I didn't see that until I became adult, because when I was a teenager, oh, I let her have it. When I was a young adult, oh, she got it. You the worst. I don't like you. You don't know what you're talking about, because she had her own trauma. She didn't know how to raise us. So when my mom
Mm-hmm.
apologized to me and my siblings, basically saying, I didn't know how to do it. That for me, when she apologized, it was like cracking the egg, and it just like all the yolk just came out. It just broke for me. Like, wow. So it helped me in my journey to heal. So she's doing what she's doing. She's going to handle what she's going to handle. She apologized. I can no longer hold her accountable for what happened in the past. I have to move on. So right now, today at 51 years old, why am I mad at her? Because she had an issue and she doesn't know how to tell me she loves me. She tells me now, but she didn't know how to tell me she loves me. Why am I struggling with that still? And I'm 51. Why? She has to deal with hers. You've got to deal with yours, even with your parents and whoever raised you. It may not have been your mom or your dad. No, so I had to learn healing looks different for each of us. What does yours look like? How did yours begin?
You know what I mean? TT, I want to add something. I want to add something to that, because sometimes people don't get that experience of their parents apologizing, and their parents. I work a lot. I have a lot. Most of my clients are in between the ages of 30 and 50, or over 50, maybe 30 and 60. And that's a big thing that comes up for a lot of the women that I get to support, is that their parents are still wearing the blinders.
Yeah.
Their parents are still blaming them for things that they did. And so part of the process is, right, part of that process is realizing that, and I explain it like this: when we go through experiences, we put on blinders to survive.
Yeah.
Right?
We do.
And sometimes some people are not going to be able to lift their blinders in this lifetime, or they have not gone through an experience that has lifted their blinders. And I want to give you an example. My stepfather, my bonus dad, I have carried a lot for my mother and my bonus dad as the oldest child for a long time. And I kept explaining to him, you know, as I'm for the last 11 years, all of my siblings have mental health struggles, and all of my siblings also have gone through immense childhood trauma. And so I was always the one that's like, everybody needs to heal because we're all projecting and nobody listens, right? So I'm like, let me just mind my business over here.
Right.
But for my bonus dad, I would listen. You know, I would listen, I would provide advice, but he wasn't listening. And so it wasn't until, unfortunately, and I say this as in, Spirit puts things in our lives for us to be aware of things, right? Spirit puts experiences in our life. We're either going to learn from that experience or we're going to harden our heart. And so this experience with my brother is what, unfortunately, it took my bonus father that long to realize that his trauma he's been projecting it on his children for all these years. You know, it took a loss. And the same thing with my father, my biological father, that it took this experience of his accident for him to be aware of what he was carrying, what he was internalizing, what he was projecting, what he wasn't able to see, you know. And I noticed that a lot with the women that I work with, the birthing people that I support, that they have a hard time because their parents are still not honoring or apologizing. Now, again, sometimes this is not about mending our relationship with our parents, because sometimes the abuse continues. This isn't about us needing to have our parental relationship. This is about the healing within inside of us, the freedom and the peace that we find internally, so that we are not carrying their burdens or the burdens of their pain that was created with us internally. And so sometimes that's not going to look like our parent apologizing or even realizing. Sometimes that looks like creating boundaries and space and limits with people who cannot see what they are also carrying. And that's okay. That's okay for you. I can't hear you. That's okay for you to be able to say, you know what, I get to create space for my own healing. I get to create space. I get to create space so that I can find peace internally for myself, so that I can heal internally for myself, so that I can live this life of peace. I don't always need those apologies. I can do that with my coaches, my counselors, my healers, whatever that looks like for you, right? Because that's another thing too, in this world of mental health, there are many layers of practitioners now. It doesn't always have to just look like a traditional counselor or a coach, or it can look like your yoga teacher. It can look like your church. It can look like your elders in your traditions. It can look like so many different layers. And that's the beautiful thing about healing and this faith on this journey, that it gets to look like whatever supports you in your healing and your faith. It can look like anything. It can look like rolling around in the grass. If that helps you, thank you, Spirit.
If you're not allergic.
Yes, exactly. Okay. But it can look like anything
Yeah.
in that journey, you know?
Yeah. But I want to say something about I want to piggyback on the apology thing. You may not even get it. I mean, and
Yeah,
if so,
exactly.
don't look for it. If you don't get it, that's okay. Reparent yourself.
Yes,
Reparent
that
yourself.
part.
I've had to do a lot of inner child work.
Mhm.
Lots and lots and lots of inner child work. So that means I have to grieve the mother that I thought I wanted, or the mother that I should have gotten and didn't get. I had to grieve the relationship that I should have gotten with my father that I didn't get. Because I can go through the rest of my life blaming them for not giving me what I needed. And I'm as old as I am now, and it's just never gonna. When does it stop? So I do think if you're looking for it, unfortunately, if you have the type of personality in your parent where they're just not going to give it to you because maybe they're narcissistic, maybe they're BPD, borderline personality disorders, prideful. Let's go ahead and throw that one on the spiritual side. Maybe they're not
Hmm.
going to do it because their thing to you is this: look, I raised you. I did everything that I could. And if you are ungrateful, then that's just on you. Okay. Okay. Let's say we get that conversation. You got to do whatever you got to do with that. No longer expecting that they're going to be that cleaver mom
That
where
part.
they would leave it a cleaver, leave it a beaver, leave it a beaver mom where she's going to say, how was your day at school? You're not going to get that. So you have to
Yeah.
grieve. You have to grieve what you did not get. And then you can either reparent yourself,
Yes.
or you can find support circles, or you can find an individual that will give you that. I am a firm believer that we are, and I know this to be true, we're born into our families that we're born into, right? You
Hmm.
can't change. You got
Amen.
a messed up cousin, a gossipy sister, your mama messy, and your daddy ain't never around. You can't change that, but you can create the family that you need. You can create that. You can,
Hmm.
I've had a few in the beginning of my journey. I thought I needed a mother, but I didn't, because I found out when women tried to mother me, I was like, what you doing? What you think you're doing? So I learned that I can go and get it. I can go and get it. So, we're born into the families we're born into. That's something we can't help, but you can
That's a
create.
Yeah, and that's
You
a
can.
way bigger this is a collective healing that is needed, right? I want to just give a
Oh
shout
yeah.
out to my godmother and best friend Denise. We have this conversation all the time. She's here. She's my
Hi,
godmother in
Denise.
the faith of Lukumi, and we talk about this conversation all the time, as in the disconnect first, for one, right, from spirit, our heavenly Father, whatever word, universe, heavenly mother, whatever word, universe, spirit, and earth in general. Okay, and this is one thing as a faith-based, as a nature-based practitioner, that we damage what they call Mother Earth. We have such a disconnect in general, collectively,
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
our parents, that inner child, inner parenting is so crucial on the journey of many people
You're right.
in finding their faith. It's bigger than just
You're
one
right.
person. It's a
Community.
world. Yes, it is an international illness, is the disconnect from mother father health and what that looks like,
Yeah.
starting
Yeah.
with the way that we treat our planet, right? Because we call it Mother Earth for a reason. We damage it, we do this
I
damage,
don't.
we don't even recognize it, right? And
Yeah.
so, right, and so it's that difference, it's that disconnect from treating, or the like, the earth provides us nutrients, the earth provides
Yeah.
us things, and then we're damaging it. It's that same thing, that same, what layer. It just looks different. It's a collective illness that a lot of people are working through, that we're all working through collectively, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, so what time do you want to open up for questions and people to give their stories
Let's say
before
about
we
10 more minutes, and we'll
10 more
give
minutes?
time for
Okay.
questions.
So
Yeah.
you guys get your stories ready, your questions, your comments. I'm anxious to hear. I love Brittany's voice, but I want to hear what you all got to say. I'm so anxious to hear. But while we're doing shout outs, I got a couple. I think I see a couple people that I know. I want to give a shout out to, I see my sister Elena there. She has been, this woman right here. I mean, she's awesome. I don't have enough time in the day to just say, she was prevalent when I was sexually assaulted by the bishop. Not while it happened. I didn't like her while it happened. after, because I thought she was in cahoots with the church, because I was shunned. The church shut me out. I was completely shut out by the church. They discommunicated me. Where I'm not, it wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, but I was discommunicated. I was kicked out the church. So I didn't have anybody, because at the time the church was my everything. It was my friendship. It was my communication. It was my wake up in the morning call. So yeah, you know, Elena was she was a pillar after the fact. And one thing the reason why I'm taking the time to say this about her, and in the length that I'm going to say it, was because I was not, she was not somebody that I wanted in my life at the time, you know, because I felt she was in cahoots with everybody else. I thought she believed him and didn't believe me. And she said that she wrote my foreword. So when you get my book, or if you get my book, she did my foreword. Elena did my foreword. And in the foreword, she talked about, you know, she said some things. She said some very powerful things. I'm not going to go into it, but you know, she stayed with me. She stayed with me. She, you know, was like, hey, she would check on me. Hey, KEYSHA, how you doing? I was very like, fine, just fine. So one day she just asked me, what did I do to you? What? So I basically that broke the ice there. She has stayed with me since. She was with me before, but I wouldn't let her in. But I tell her I am so in love with her. No funny stuff. I just love her to life. She is, you know, if there's anybody I want to be like, and I don't want to be like many people in this world because I think I'm the greatest. But if there's anybody,
that's a Capricorn. Okay, she's a Capricorn for anybody who knows astrology.
Yeah.
Seven planets in Capricorn.
If there's anybody I aspire to be like, it's her. I mean, she's done some tremendous, amazing things. But all of that, we're all here to do amazing and tremendous things. We all have gifts. But she loved me when I was unlovable. I can be very ugly still now, but I kind of put it in a container. But she loved me when I shunned her, when I didn't want to talk to her, even after we came together, I shunned her. And I think this last coming together, when I shunned her, she said to me, because I would say to her, Elena, I have issues with saying how I feel. I don't know how to say how I feel. So she would say to me, and I'm not quoting her, but she would say something like, KEYSHA, I understand. She said, but you got to remember, I have feelings too. I have feelings too. I hurt too. So I want to give that shout out to my big sis, Elena. I don't know your middle name, so I'm going to give you one. Elena Monica Holloway Hopkins. She just got married. And I want to shout out my mom. My mom is here, you know, and I think my dad is here. My dad is my uncle. My dad is my brother's uncle. And Yvonne, she shouting back at me. Sorry. My dad is here. He is my my dad's brother, but my Uncle TD, who is my dad, he stepped up, and he came into my life around 18. So I want to give him a shout out. So I have my parents here, and I have my family here, and then you guys are here. So you're my extended family. So I definitely, a shout out to my mom. My mom is a champion. My mom has been through so much. She's been through so much. And so I'm definitely grateful for her never giving up, because even though we struggled and I went through what I went through, my experience was my experience, but she could have given up at any point, and she chose not to. She didn't give us up for adoption. We had welfare, we had food stamps, we had, living wherever we lived, but she did her best. And I just want to commend her on that. So that's my shout out. But I'm real anxious now to just like kind of talk to the peoples.
So you have to raise your hand and then we can unmute you. Or if you want to drop a question in the chat, then we can also answer the questions there.
So
don't hesitate to share.
While we're waiting on hands to be raised, I can go into more information. We can definitely talk about more. We can give out our social media handles.
Yes. We'll put it all in the chat.
I have to know how to do that. I know how to do it, but I got to go. I think I'm on my phone, so I have to, because I have the
I'll do yours. I'll put yours.
I have the Good Morning Survivor link on my YouTube channel. I have that in there. I want to put the link for my book for if anyone wants to buy that. And then too, if for speaking engagements, we're both open for that. I have my a number where I would use for that. other than my IG as well. Other than that,
I'm gonna grab everything. I'm gonna mute myself while I grab it.
Okay, you do that. Other than that, I guess as most importantly, as a therapist, I've learned now that I've become a therapist, everything that I do, every person that I come in contact with, it's like it's called therapy brain. It's like when I'm talking, okay, we got a hand raised. I'm gonna stop. I will stop abruptly when we have somebody because I want to hear your story. Candace Jackson. Well, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I just want to thank you guys for having this conversation. It's like very refreshing to hear this. I'm Black and Puerto Rican, and I feel like we don't have conversations like this in our communities enough. I've known Brittany for the last, like, I don't know, 5 years now.
Oh, wow.
It's been an amazing journey. And I've been able to work on myself a lot, but it really resonated hearing about the family because I feel like I'll try to get my family to talk about therapy or to go. And people in my family have had like therapy weaponized against them, like in the courts. So like I'll talk to my parents, like, let's work through this in therapy, and there'll be resistance, like you said, that generational block. And even my grandfather, who's in his 80s now, and my grandmother who has dementia, they lost babies when they were younger, and my grandfather had the loss of a child, and now my grandmother's dementia. And I tried talking to him about his emotions, and he's just like, what do
Huh?
you, we don't do this. And now that like I've been going to therapy and I've been working with Brittany, and I realized there are things that I normalized growing up in my that they aren't normal. It's not normal, but you realize when you go to therapy, like, oh, that situation wasn't normal. And so I'm coming to this place where I'm working on all of these things, but my family's not necessarily having all those realizations. So there is like a tension. And it was really nice you talking to your mom and being able to be so transparent about how you feel and like have that depth in your relationship. Like I had a good childhood growing up, but I want to have those conversations. And sometimes I have to pick my battles of like what's worth my energy, if that makes sense. You know, I'm
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
not open to those things. I love you, but I don't know how to like navigate those situations, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And then, Tula, I want to preference something. Your journey is your journey. So and I tell the eating disorder clients this when I talk with them in our groups. It's unfortunate that our family is not in this group with us getting the tools that you're getting to learning how to communicate, finding out what are defense mechanisms and what are my emotions looking like. So because you're the one getting the healing, what is what we say in our center, you're getting the healing. You have to know that, okay, they may not get it. They may not be able to talk about their emotions. They may never talk about their emotions. And then some may come around. Some may be like, let me see what this Candace talking about. So you may get some, but you may not get everybody. But and what I say to the clients in the eating disorder center is, but it's about you. It is about you, how you move in this earth, how you move in the circles that you're in, because you go outside of your family now. You know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate sometimes in our family dynamics we find out the kind of boundaries we had or didn't have. When we go outside our family, you got clear boundaries, diffuse boundaries, or friggin' no boundaries. So I want to say to you, it is about you making sure, and I'm so glad you're on the journey that you're on. And I am so glad that because you're on this journey, you're able to see clearer now. And you're moving towards like healthy ways. Like, okay, Uncle Boo Boo does not communicate clearly. And that's okay for Uncle Boo Boo. But if you're going to communicate with him, you got to accept him for where he is and know that you're the one on the journey, not him. So, and that's a lot of times what we forget. It's like, hey, I'm healing. Why aren't y'all? I can't be mad at you because I can't be mad at my mom because she won't go to therapy right now. You know, it's her prerogative. I can just communicate with her on the level that she's on. It doesn't take anything away from me. It doesn't take anything away from me. I am still healing. I still got attitude issues, problems. I am extremely attitudinal, very moody. So I have to know now. I have to know, okay, I can't talk to her right now because I don't want to hurt her feelings. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Yes, you can, honey.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to again emphasize that like I just really appreciate the transparency in you guys' conversations and like sharing your journey because it was really powerful for me to hear that, especially like I said, being Black and Puerto Rican and not hearing these type of conversations happen often, especially with you guys talking about the different like age and different experience on
Yeah.
your journey. It was really powerful to hear. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, no, we're glad that you're here. We're definitely glad that you're here and that you're sharing. Thank you for sharing. It's taboo. It's taboo. I'm hoping not so much now because we're talking so much about it. You know, we're talking about, hey, I'm going to therapy. It used to be a secret. Excuse me. It used to be you go to therapy, you crazy. What you going to? Who did you kill? Who did you know? What I'm
Yes.
saying it was so serious, like But now it's become the more we talk about mental health issues, and this is what it looks like. This depression is generational. You know what I mean? So we got to know what it looks like, So yeah, it's definitely the more we talk about it, the more comfortable people could possibly be about it. I can't speak for other people, but I do know it's almost like, when you talk about it more, it becomes more acceptable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because back in the day, it was a white person's cure. Just like with
Yeah.
the cell phones. How many remember when the cell phones first came out, only white collar businessmen, was it cell phones or pagers? I think it was both of
Both.
them. Only white collar businessmen can have them. Now everybody's got one because it's becoming more prevalent for us. So don't shun the whole, get it for yourself. Get it for
Yeah.
yourself.
And another thing,
Yeah.
like my husband, he was like, I don't think therapy works for me. I'm like, do you know how many different types of therapy there is? It doesn't have to just be psychotherapy, talk therapy. There are hundreds of different types of therapy. That's why we stress it has to work for you. Like my work, right? That I get to support Candace in this work. It doesn't look like the same, right? It doesn't look like one of my clients, she's a therapist, and she always tells me sometimes therapy feels rigid. I like that space where I can, feel relational safety. And so it really has to work for you. It has to really work for you. It has to be the type, the relational piece to your therapist, counselor, coach, healer. It has to be there. That safety piece has to be there. You have to feel that safety and security with that person, because relational is super important for your all parts, all layers, all versions of you to settle in there and be like, okay, even if you irritate me, I have a client right now, she'll say, the way you say things, I need to hear it. And I only want to hear from you, even though it's annoying, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so it's that safety piece, right? It's like the nurturing, it's the inner mother, it's that inner father piece that creates the safety for us and breaking those stigmas.
And the reason why there are so many different types of therapy, because we're not all the same.
Yes.
We are.
That's why faith is different. So many different types of faith.
We're a bouquet of flowers. You know what I'm saying? I have had so many different levels of therapy. And by me being a therapist, you can do the EMDR on yourself. I tried that one time. I was like, I'm not doing it anymore because I don't like where it sends me. So, I mean, there's so many different types. In my healing and in my journey, I do imagery. I did guided imagery therapy. And what that is, let me share. What that is for certain, there was an incident, and my mom may not remember this, but I have lots of many small incidents. There was an incident as a child. I can't remember vaguely, but we were in this house. It was me and my brother. My sister probably was gone with her dad. I was real young. My mom had left, was leaving, getting ready to leave. I don't know where she was going. But I remember being real little, and I remember saying in my brain, Mommy, please don't leave. So I went into the room, and there was this train that used to come, and I was little, the train used to scare me because it used to wake me up out of my sleep. So as an adult, I did not know because we have where I live now in my apartment, way down the way, there's a train, and I can hear the train. I'm not triggered by it anymore because I did guided imagery containing what ended up happening. What I had to do was I had to literally, in my mind's eye, take myself back to when I was little and the train came, and I used a character. Let's say, and I'm going to use this for not disclosing too much, Mickey Mouse. I used Mickey Mouse as my therapist. And Mickey Mouse is saying to me, to that little child, are you afraid? And my little child is saying, yeah. So what I did was I recreated that Mickey Mouse taking that fear from me. It wasn't Mickey, really, it was somebody else I used.
I use that
But
also
he
in my
used
practice. We use this work in my practice.
That's guided imagery. So my Mickey Mouse took that fear from me. So now when I hear a train, I have that new narrative that trains don't scare me anymore. Yes. So all types of therapy, music. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Yoga, Christian yoga for those of us that don't want to do, the other type of Christian yoga. So there are different types of therapy because you and all of these beautiful faces on this platform are different. We heal different. We hear different. We interpret different. We understand different. We are different human beings. So don't be afraid to try healthy. Let me be specific. Healthy ways of what your healing needs to look like. Who needs to be in your circle of healing? This is another technique that I use with my clients. At the Eating Disorder Center, I do what's called the support circle. Who right now, for each of you, who right now is in your support circle? Why are they in your support circle? How close are they? In the support circle, you have one circle, you got another circle, then you got you, and you put me. Who is in there with you? Who's outside there? Who's up here? Who's in your support circle? And why are they there? How are they contributing to your healing? You know what I'm saying? And it changes. So do the work. It's a lot of work.
Another thing too, a lot of people, especially women in their mid-30s and older, are dealing with perimenopause and menopausal symptoms. And so things come to the surface and your mental health is triggered in that way. That's something that people don't talk about. It's one thing that I'm researching a lot. Almost every single one of my clients is in perimenopause and menopause. And so different things are going to be different throughout your life, right? Like I actually use a lot of the a version that I practice in my practice that is EMR similar. It's soul retrieval with bilateral stimulation, but that sensory input, people don't realize that those of us who are neurospicy, I call it neurospicy, and women who are getting diagnosed in their later ages, sometimes just having those sensory inputs, it's about managing, there's a difference between trauma and a mental health disorder that you're going to live with forever. They show up similar in the body. Right? They show up similar in the body. So while I'm healing my trauma, I'm also neurospicy. So I use some of these other tools. I use the bilateral stimulation, the vibration, the breath work to help manage my neurospicy brain also. And so that's another thing. When you think about the options that you have for healing, it's also about understanding yourself and what do you need to manage. I went through a big hiccup in my life, not wanting to accept that I'm going to have to live like this forever. Right? That there are some things that I can't get rid of, that yes, I'm healing my trauma. Why is these things still happening? Well, my brain is different. My brain is different than other people's. And a lot of the women that I work with also are neurospicy. And so while we're also healing, we're sensitive to the outside world, spiritually and physically. And so our tools will look different. Your tools will look different throughout your life. I have a lot of women right now who are hitting the first stages of menopause and they're having issues with their mental health because what they were using then is not beneficial now. And so remember, just like TT said before, that sometimes you'll grow out of things. Sometimes I like to call it our toolbox, right? We have tools in our toolbox, including our therapy and our counseling and our coaching and our healing. We have tools in our toolbox that once we have this toolbox, we add to it and we're able to recognize, what do I need in this moment? So for me, you don't like the vibration, that for my ADHD is heaven. I got a vibration board. I do my tapping all the time. I use it in my practice because it helps a lot of my clients sensory wise. We do the visualization with the tapping. We retrieve child versions of ourselves with the tapping because that sensory input might be important. So just really understanding that you might not be fixing something, that you might be learning how to sustain or manage something if your brain is different. And so that's important. And I work with a lot of women who maybe were undiagnosed, and I let them know, I can't diagnose you obviously yet. And so she can, right? And so it's important that you can get that diagnosis just for your own clarity, right? Sometimes just that clarity so that you can say, Oh, okay. Like another shout out to another of my mentors, who's also one of my best friends. She recently got diagnosed ADHD. She's going to be 50. And she was like, this is, and I've been telling her, you know, you show all the signs and symptoms, right? I'm in school. I'm in the process of in studying psychology and furthering my education as far as mental health therapy, to add to my coaching. And so I told her, you know, you show all the signs and symptoms. And when she went, they didn't even ask her no questions. They were like, oh, you're menopausal? Yes. Right. Because that's another, I'm
That's
serious.
so rude.
That's, it's very, you know, that's something that in mental health and in women's health, they don't talk about. Okay.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of research as far as, and this is, I've been taking it upon myself to do as much research as possible with changes to our hormones and our body and mental health and women. And what we need is different because, like I said, I'm perimenopausal myself at 35, which is pretty early. And I was like, what's going on? I thought I had everything managed, and then I had to change everything. They cannot test from perimenopause. Your levels might change, but they change so rapidly in perimenopause, they can't test it. So they'll often send you home and say nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
While you're not sleeping, your cycle's changing, all of these things are happening. And so understanding yourself is a crucial piece to also your health and knowing what to choose for yourself. You know, I have a lot of women that I work with who, like I said, right, things are changing. Your nutrition, right? I'm a holistic integrative practitioner. So I'm working with, what are you, you know, what are your medical team saying about your blood work? Have you gotten your blood work done? And not just a panel from the doctor, right? Because a traditional medical doctor will only panel so many things. You can go to functional medicine, they'll panel 119 panels. They'll do your hormones, your iron, and extra things to see, because sometimes the Western medical doctors are not doing full body, right? And the Western medicine is so important, but we need full body understanding to really support our health. That's mind, that's blood work, that's gut health, that's, you know, heart health.
Holistic.
That's all
the
things.
whole body, the whole body. And then
Yes.
too, you said a lot of good things, a lot of good points, but I'm not going to hit on everything because we'd be here another 6 hours. But I want to hit on the trauma. I want to hit on trauma and what it looks like. And you know, when you get it at an early age, it reroutes the brain. I talk about that in my book. It reroutes the brain, literally, you know, to where our emotions aren't regulated. Because when you got to remember what trauma is like a jolt to the system, right? Because we're all going to experience it. Sometimes we recover from it, sometimes we don't. But with consistent trauma, it's like you're constantly this is what's happening all the time with trauma, on a constant jolt. And so it's kind of, you can't regulate. You can't regulate. So while you're doing this, while this is happening, your brain is rewiring to that. So, because for me, I think my earliest trauma was 7 years old. So it's like, okay, now I'm like, I come into rooms, and I do have OCD. I am OCD. So, and then I do talk about I have a weighted blanket that I have right here with me now, weighted blanket, because, you know, I get antsy, you know, and I start, you know, I do the self-soothing. So that's all what's in my basket of helping me, you know, I'm never going to be away from it. So, you know, getting back to the trauma, you know, and I had to learn, what does mine look like? It's okay that I have an oil fixation. I need things to chew on sometimes, which is why I eat.
I'm like drinking all the time. I always got to be doing something. Yes.
Mine is, I eat when I'm not supposed to eat. That's because I have an oral fixation. I always have to have something in my mouth. So I get little chew sticks now. You know what I'm saying? So what does your trauma looks like? And trauma goes inside of our muscles, and it lives inside of us. And so finding out, what can you recover from it? Yes. There are some things we are, just like you said, we're going to live with. I'm going to always have my weighted blanket. Now, and I had mentioned to a coworker that, you know, because I have so much trauma, when people walk into the room, I can close my eyes and tell you somebody's come in. Well, naturally I'll hear it, but the energy shifts. You know what I'm saying? So I'm real sensitive to energy. You know, I'm real, or if nobody's talking, I'll come in and I'll know what the energy is. It'll either take from me or it'll add from me. You know, so, I mean, in the beginning, I was mad about it because I had so much trauma, but now I was like, okay, that's who I am. That's my gifting. That's I come in and I used to be a blabbermouth. I used to go in and I would know things and see things and tell people. But now I don't do that because people aren't ready to always hear it. But nevertheless, I had to manage my trauma. I had to figure out what was it, which is therapy. I have to stay in therapy. By me being a therapist anyway, I'm going to stay in therapy because I take on other people and I'm open to energies. I'm going to take in other people's energy. And so, it's good. And another flip side is I'm being a therapist, we're opened up to different viewpoints. It shifts each time. So, staying in therapy, and then physically, what do I need? I need, when I come from therapy with my therapist and we do trauma work, smells are big. I got to have a certain smell. So I set up my apartment. So when I come back, I know I'm going to smell this. I put on my weighted blanket and I just sit. I don't listen, don't take any phone calls. I just sit with what she said. So what does yours look like?
Yes.
It looks different for all of us. It looks different for all of us. But the rewiring, unfortunately, it's not reversible. It does happen. You just have to know how am I going to live with it? How am I going to adjust to it? And it's okay. Don't be afraid to find out that you have a mental health disorder. I just named 8 billion, the list of what we have of who has them, and it's not reported. So, find out how you tick, how you go through the world. I think that's important. So I have nothing left unless we have other people want to say something. I'm open.
This was beautiful. This was really great.
I'm
so grateful that we had this space. Yeah.
So, do you have all of your social media handles out there?
I don't have your Facebook. That's the only one I couldn't find.
My Facebook is,
I don't have Facebook.
Here, I have a little card. It's K Lovely Stewart CONARD. It's CONARD and not Conrad. And it's Stewart with a T and not a D. And then I want to put this up. This is my card.
I put your YouTube.
Okay. And on back, I have the QR codes that gets you quickly to the YouTube channel and also quickly to the Amazon link. And that's all I've got to say about that.
Let me, also, I wanted to share that in the name of my brother, we did donations towards the National Alliance of Mental Illness for Greater Cleveland. So I'm going to send that chat here if anybody is interested in donating in my brother's name. And I'll put that at the bottom. And I'm also going to put your Amazon link right here. In the,
awesome.
In the comments. Let me get your book link.
Yeah, I know my little disclaimer. I know how to do that. It's just I don't know how to do it as quickly as you do it. But I do there's some other stuff I want you to show me. Like when this event was coming up, the reminders and stuff like that. I need you to show me how to do that.
Okay.
Not after this, but later. So, okay, does anybody else have anything they'd like to say, contribute? If not, I am so glad that we got who we got. This was beautiful. This was beautiful. I do pray that, or I do ask that your day be productive and that it be continue to be positive just because you have chimed in and listened and kind of added to the topic in the conversation. You are worthy of healing. You are worthy of healing. Bye, Mom. She's up there. You didn't want to say anything?
Bye, Granny.
We can't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, wait, let me unmute her. Hold on. I have to do it. Go ahead, Granny.
She's still muted.
She has to unmute herself.
You have to unmute yourself.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Okay. I enjoyed the conversations between you two about the mental health. With my struggles, it's been more spiritual than just natural because I had growing up as a kid also, KEYSHA, my mother was never there. She was always working. So, she didn't know, she had 7 children. She didn't know how to raise us. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that kind of, in my family, I consider myself as the black sheep of the family because I got the less attention more than my other siblings did. So it helped me. It caused me to learn how to do things on my own
Yeah.
because my mother never taught me how to be a mother. She never taught me how to be a woman. So I had to grow up, you know, because in my family it was a lot of abuse, you know, with my
Yeah.
mom and dad. So I had to learn how to stand alone and be on my own and I had to raise going, in other words, you know. So a lot of things that happened in my life, I didn't know how to do. I didn't
Yeah.
know what to do,
Yeah.
you know. So, but I relied on God. And I received him at the age of 12. And I relied on him from that day to this day, because without his spiritual guidance, I wouldn't be here. I've many suicide, you know, I've been beaten. And through all that, those traumas, you know, I didn't know about walking into mental health, talking to a psychiatrist,
Yeah.
because I did, but they couldn't help me on what I needed. So I relied on God. And so by me relying on him, he has walked me through this life to where I am now. I'm at 71 and I should have been dead years ago. But he allowed me to stay here, not only to do the work he's called me to do, but, you know, to hear you two as my family, my daughter and my granddaughter, the two oldest is, you know, through the traumas that y'all experience is something that you had to go through in order for God to take you to a higher level than where he's taking you to another level in helping people. And that's what it's all about. You know, it's about helping
Amen.
people. It's not about, you know, we all have been through something, especially as a Black race. We have been through, out of all the races, but what Black people don't understand, we are the chosen ones of God. We are the Black people in the Bible, whether they know it or not. You know, it's a lot that God has given me. I know, you know, but people aren't. Our race is not ready for that. You know, if you read it in Deuteronomy, he tells you, you know, the things that you were going to go through if you were disobedient. He tells you in Chronicles, you know, if my people, he tells you if you just listen to and hear him, he can heal your land. If you pray, seek his face, he will do it. You know, all that I've been through in my life, and I mean, it's been a lot, but through it all, God has brought me from A to this point now. I'm not at Z because I ain't dead yet. So I'm somewhere from A, maybe I'm at D, I don't know. But from what I've experienced, you know, I'm in between right now, what God has got me doing. I'm in the frame of mind now. All I want to do is like you guys doing. But my thing is winning souls for Christ, telling people about the goodness of Jesus. That's my thing right now.
Yeah.
Even though I you know, God has healed my knee. I mean, it's so much I can share, you know, that I want people to know God is real. And I want them to know that he has put people like KEYSHA and BRITTANY on this earth for the things that they can give them that they don't understand from God. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a mental thing that they can, but then eventually it will bring it to him. That's what I see.
Full circle.
Eventually,
It comes full circle.
helping people will bring people to God. You know what I'm saying? Because it's all about him, regardless of what we go through. Because when we leave this earth, we got to see him. So it's all about him, but he gives people the knowledge and the wisdom. That's what the word says. The wisdom, seek the wisdom and the knowledge of God that he gives you. You know what I'm saying? To do the things that you guys are doing. You know, even though we've been hurt, who haven't been hurt? Everybody's been hurt on this
It's
earth.
how we
You know
recover from it.
I don't care if you're rich, poor. I don't care. You've been somewhere in your life. You have had some drama, you know. So that's what I wanted to share. I'm very proud of you guys doing this because somebody's got to do it. You got to have the courage. You got to have the strength. You got to have the knowledge. You got to have the education to do this because it's hard. People are killing themselves every day. It's hard, but God has somebody that's willing to say, here I am, I'll do it. And that's who he's chosen in my family. You know what I'm saying? You strong women, beautiful,
Yeah.
strong Black women. God has used you all to stretch what He wants to get out. You know, you read it in the book. You know, He tells you that He saved people for you to go out to the highways and the byways and compel the people. However, it's done. It's done in that way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we thank you definitely for your testimony and,
Yeah.
and the wisdom
I
that
got a
you have
cold, so I'm
definitely.
kind of hoarse.
Well, we figured that much, but we thank you for your testimony and your wisdom that you disclosed. I mean, and then just hearing your story, why you believe in what you believe and learning that, yeah, we can have mental health and what I believe in the way and the whys and the whats. It's okay. It's okay. You have what you have. God was a constant for you. I think I think you have a beautiful testimony. And I do believe that, your testimony makes you who you are. And I think if you had not, as horrible as it was, we have a hand raised. Okay. I think as horrible as it was, you wouldn't be who you are. You wouldn't have that fervor to want to win souls. Right. So we thank you for your testimony. Mute yourself, Ma, so we can get the next person.
How do I do that?
I got it.
Brittany will do it. We got Elena wants to say something.
Thank you, Granny.
Quick. Thank you.
Okay, you have to unmute yourself.
Hi.
Okay.
Hey. Wait a second. There we go. First of all, this was absolutely amazing. KEYSHA, I am so stinking proud of you. Like, I can't even explain.
Don't make me cry.
I am. I just have to, I'm over here bawling. That's why I had my camera off. Like, literally, I was in tears for so many different reasons. As a believer and a follower of Jesus Christ, I think that this is the part that's left out, right? This is the part where the intergenerational relationships is so needed right now. I'm grateful for maturity, even in that. When I was listening to Brittany speak, you blew me away. Because in the church world, we've been taught anyone who does not believe like us or think like us, they're hell-bound, right? And that I think it's a trick of the enemy to keep us locked in, to not study, as the Bible tells us to study, to show ourselves approved. He commands us to do that, to know Him for ourselves. And a lot of times in the church world, we've been brainwashed to, if it doesn't come from the pulpit, then it's not the correct thing. And when you were speaking today, there was such an alignment. There was so much that you were saying that we share some of the same gifts that KEYSHA is very aware. That I've ran from for years because people thought that I was like spooky, a ghost, or even as an adult, a witch, or all these different things.
A black witch, not a white witch.
Right, a black witch.
Brittany will let you know the difference if they're. But
well, we don't really call them black or white. It's just some people use, just like people use bad things for bad things. That's what it is.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for that clarity.
I actually just took a class on the history of where the word witch came from, and it was all out of fear of healers who knew how to heal.
Which is so you just I don't know, I like something was going through. I said, KEYSHA, I was gonna text her. I said, oh wait, we have a conversation after this here meeting here, because there's some things going on right now that I am like, what the heck am I feeling? But it was just I was able to identify so many different things or whatever that you were speaking about, Brittany. And thank you for your being transparent.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for just being open. And I don't know how in the world, but it was like, what, 7 people on here? But KEYSHA, this needs to be on a much larger platform. And I'm going to do everything in my power to see how we can do that with the connections that I have, because we are stuck in a space and we're going after each other because outlets to be able to learn, right?
Yeah.
And to communicate. As your mom said, hi there, I haven't seen you in forever. But when she was talking about the generational not being able to, their generation not being able to have access is what it really was. Access,
right.
To therapy, and then we were I'm writing my new book about therapy. And we were always taught that in the Black family, what goes on in this house stays this house to the detriment of us now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I believe in the Black family, we all got some mental health issues, and because of the trauma, and then not just the trauma, but the decision to be silent, and how we
Yeah.
carry this level of, you talk about the high blood pressure, we talk about all the different diseases that Black people
Ulcers, cancer.
all this stuff. But when
Mhm.
you think about, so Brittany, your age, you're 35, I think you said. So Brittany,
Yes.
you're 35, and you have this space to be free. You have this space to be able to communicate how you feel, what you see. You're not being controlled. Can you imagine the 71-year-old Gwen who has had to carry for years and be silent this
Yeah.
weight that weighs us
Yeah.
down? And so then she doesn't have an outlet of the weight that she carries, or the abuse that she carried, or the things that
Yeah.
she endured. Now then she gets KEYSHA, and she gets the other people. So where does that weight go, right?
Yeah.
We're still being taught that we can't speak, that we have to be quiet, we got to cover, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Then you got my generation and the KEYSHA generation. Then you got the next generation. And it's this generation, I believe, because I am a component for intergenerational relationships. I think that it is so needed. I
It
believe
is.
have something that each other need. Brittany, there's something that you have that I need, but then there's something that I have that you need, and we have to
Amen.
figure out a balance here. What does
Mhm.
balance look like? How do we become healthier? How do we grow from what we've been through? And I think that this platform is so powerful. Man, I'm
Thank
sitting
you.
here like literally I was bawling. Like, God, this is so powerful. And so thank you guys for KEYSHA. Thank you for sending that to me this morning. My whole day is off, but it's okay.
Oh,
I
I'm
needed,
sorry.
no. I needed this. And so I just, again, we need to figure out what this looks like. And even with, my things that I'm doing, how this can benefit.
Continue. Just let
I,
us know. Just let us
I
know.
just want to add
Brittany.
something because, part of my trauma is that my spiritual beliefs and my connection with God has been shunned for a very long time, right? Especially by the Black community, because, it's, a lot of Jesus, and I love Jesus, right? I believe in all faiths and all traditions, 100%. And there was a book that I read that this woman, she's a priest in my faith, and she said, it resonated with me because it's what I believe, that God created all faiths because there's not one way to go home, and so for my life, I've had to hide a lot of my faith from my family because it is in the church seen as demonic or not right or not the way. And so it's been a really important piece for me to let people know in my practice and in my work that that whatever works for you, as long as you don't initiate harm on another person, whatever works for you, as long as
Yeah.
it takes you home, that's what works for you. Because that's a really big piece. Even with my auntie, right? I had a big fear telling her my faith. I had a big fear telling my granny my faith. Everybody always wants to change it and make it what it's theirs. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this works for
Yeah.
me. I'm happy and I have a great relationship with God. My same thing
Yeah.
with my husband's grandmother. She used to do the same thing. Well, you need to read this, you need to read that.
Yeah.
Well, I read what I need to read, what God tells me what I need to read. So thank you for seeing that, because that's a huge piece. And especially with the women that I work with, that's a major, major thing that comes up for them, that they don't have the same faith as their family. All different ages, from 20s to 60s, maybe were raised in the church or not, and they don't have the same faith. And so they feel really shunned and a lot of trauma for the way that they connect to God.
Yeah, and we try to fit you into our box. But you know what, though? If I can say, and I'm not saying this in defense of the church, I'm not saying in the defense of the church at all. That's how we're taught. That's how we're taught.
It's only one way to Jesus Christ.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I
But
mean,
let
because
me say,
I
go
was
ahead.
Church of God in Christ. I was Church of God. I'm no longer Church of God in Christ, but I was Church of God in Christ. And there's a song we used to sing. If you weren't born,
One way to God.
One way to God. So we're kind of taught that. And so anything that comes against that is, oh, you're the devil, you're going to hell. And you know what I'm saying? And then, and in other religions, they're taught too, that their religion is the religion and we're going. So, I mean, there needs to be, because in heaven, there in I did this painting. This is what heaven is going to look like to me. All the different cultures and all the different people with the, you're going to have a Buddhist who may serve Jesus. You know what I'm saying? It's all different. It's colorful, different people, different. So I definitely, that's how we're taught. That's how we're taught. And so I want to take this. If I have offended you in any way or harmed your walk, I apologize to you on that. It was how I was taught. And I didn't try to force you. I know I didn't try to force you, but I kind of sort of did it in a very intellectual conversation by the way kind of thing. So yeah, it's how the church is teaching us, which I'm sorry, Elena, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna end it by saying which can lead to spiritual abuse.
Okay, so you took it out. So that's
okay.
A segue, because I'm a minister as well, right? And so it's also the level of control. It's keeping us not to learn, to study God for ourselves, as the Bible instructs us, right? Like it's so clear.
2 Timothy 2:15.
Show yourself approved, right? A workman. I can't get the whole thing, but
approved unto God, rightly dividing the word of truth.
Rightly dividing it, right? And so even just where Christianity derived from slavery, it's all been a part of control. And so I'm so grateful to be able to be in this space today, to be able to receive what you said. And we don't have to agree on everything, but then but we don't agree on the clothes, the style. We don't agree on how we wear our hair. We don't agree on what makeup to wear. And I think we have so long majored on the minor. And it's been a trick of the enemy, whether you look at it as the devil or whatever the enemy is, the enemy that comes to oppose truth, right? That enemy. And I think that it has for so long kept us to be small-minded, so that we cannot get the truth.
And divided. But that's the enemy's plan. That's his plan. That's the tactic. So me not to love my niece because she is of this faith, or me not to accept another individual because they're not of my belief or my faith. I no longer hold a religion or title anymore. I mean, I am non-denomination, but like my mom, Jesus, God was her constant. So she'll never leave that relationship. For me, in my abuse, God, I mean, he speaks to me like I hear your voice. He's my constant. So there's nothing another person can say or do that'll make me say, you know what, I'm going to go over here to Catholicism. I'm going to go over here. Respect that. I respect nothing against it. This is me and my constant. You get what I'm saying? So I have to appreciate.
I've had to learn that also. I've had to learn all the different faiths because my clients come with all different faiths. And so I've had to learn to honor and accept. And, I have clients who they may work with me and I'm like, you really are supposed to be in the church. Like that's where you're comfortable. And it's just the trauma that you've endured that has taken you away from that, and I take it upon myself to learn the foundations of a lot of religions and traditions so that I can support everybody in their faith. Even though I'm a priest in the Lukumi faith, whatever your faith is, that's what is really important in my psycho-spiritual mental health practice, is that I am supporting whatever that person's faith is without intersecting with my own. I may give them some visions or ideas just so that they can see it in their own way, but it's really important for me in my practice because I've experienced that. That was a major experience throughout my life. Even on the internet, people just, they want to say everything to you. Like, that's wrong, this wrong. And I'm like, but I'm home. Like, I have a relationship with God. You don't know what it looks like, So I really, really, really appreciate everything that you just shared. And for that, like you said, right, we need to understand each other because it is the enemy that's trying to pull us apart. If we all really coexisted,
have that unity,
what we could do. Oh my gosh.
Sugar mama.
Intersect right on love. I don't care what the relationship
that part
you're in. I think
that's what heaven is.
Religions come together. We agree on one thing, and that is that we should love and respect one another. And if we could just get that one right? We're worried about who you serve, what you call them, but we can't love
first.
Yes.
That's what I want to know first, and then
Right.
I'll decide
Yeah.
to love you or
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah.
No.
Yes.
So I think
No.
that if we get that love piece together, like I
Yeah.
love you, I don't judge you, I love you, and I want to show the love of God. I want to show,
Amen.
that's what I want to show, and that's what I
Yeah.
want the walk to be about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I think if you want to end it here, we can. If not, I think it's important though, because in the latter part of my book, it says how I survived sexual and spiritual abuse. Oh, I'm sorry, like this spiritual abuse. I want to hone in, and I want to go into a whole blown out conversation, but I want to hone in because a lot of people, I had somebody ask me, well, what is spiritual abuse? Some people don't even know that they've
Yeah.
experienced it. And
Yeah,
so
that's important to explain.
right. Spiritual abuses, and I wrote it down. Spiritual abuse, or another word for it is religious abuse, is when someone uses spiritual or religious beliefs to hurt, scare, or control. It can also be in the form of domestic and family violence. It's not just a religious sect.
Yeah.
It's not just in the church. It could be in other, as we've seen, the cults and all that kind of stuff have taken advantage spiritually. So that's what it, if you feel that that's what's happening with you, because then they're like, well, how do I know? If you feel that's what's happening, if you're feeling, you know who you are. If it's going against what your faith book says, kind of go within yourself. Do that, have that
Yes.
conversation with yourself. You know what I'm saying? I think the whole reason why is a little bit of history on why we got the preachers and the preachers in the Black community are so prevalent, and they're just the word, and that's it. Because back in slavery days, Black folk couldn't read. So it was said that the preacher was the one who could read, and he had all the influence and all the and the control. And so we listen to him. We listen to the white man.
Mhm.
And I do want to say this: Christianity is not a white man's religion. It is not a white man's religion. So that's another one. But anyway, that's how that generation have just come. That's how we got the Black preacher up there. But our responsibility, like 2 Timothy 2:15 says, our responsibility is to study as well. And I don't know what it will say in your faith, how you all are held responsible, but we're held responsible too. So that's how we got this preacher being so dominant. And he gets away with sleeping with people, and it's just crazy.
We call it Iwapuele, and that
Okay.
means good character. So we work with our deity and God to develop our character so that we could also serve.
Okay. So that's all I have. If anybody else had anything, does anybody want to send us off with a positive word, prayer, words of wisdom, note to self, food for thought, or do we just want to just be out? How we want to do it?
Yeah, let's just give thanks, first of all. Thanks and praise to the higher power. Thanks and praise to our ancestors for bringing us together, for all the things that we have, all the gifts, all the strength, all the journeys that they have gone through to get us to this point right here. Because without them, we couldn't be here together, especially as Black and brown women in life, right?
Yeah.
It's really important that we thank them. As our great grandmother who struggled to get us here. And
what is it? I don't come alone. I stand on the show. I come as one, but I stand on the shoulders of thousands or 10,000.
Thousands, hundreds of thousands. And I just want to I always thank the ancestors, because it's who brought us together through their journeys, and thanking Mother Goddess, Father God of all traditions, of all faiths, for allowing us to have this space to connect and heal and open our hearts together. Amen. Ashe.
And I'm appreciative for this is what acceptance looks like. This is what it should feel like. This is what it's supposed to feel like. And this is us creating that. And that's what I'm talking about. Creating it. Because the world's going to be the world. And so we get upset because the world's doing what they're doing. But what are we doing? We're creating this safe space. So I'm very grateful for every heart, every soul, everyone that hears this now, and everyone that'll hear it after. Very, very grateful. And grateful that I've learned
Denise
you.
pointed out that we have 3 generations healing right now in conversation. I just think that's so beautiful.
Oh, that's right. Oh, wow. Would you look at that?
Intergenerational.
3.
Yeah.
I didn't even thought of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Denise, for that.
Thank you, Denise, for that. So I have nothing. God blessings to each and every one of you.
See you soon. And we'll have the recording. So we'll send out the recording.
Okay. All right. I'm going to smile like this, so when you cut it off, I'll look like this.
And everyone's
Okay,
gonna
okay.
hear that, right? Premeditated.
Stop recording so I can stop smiling.
Okay, wait.